Hello my lords, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Nick Saraf's Food Lore. We're still continuing our journey of Western Europe, and this time we're going to do a Spanish breakfast. The Spaniards are known for having a light breakfast. They pair up their cup of coffee with a few things that I'm going to say and you're not going to understand what it is. Tostada con tomate, Magdalena. And the third is probably a world favorite when it comes to desserts, Churros con chocolate. So the first thing we're going to make today is the tostada, which is toast. Generally for toast they use basic Spanish rustic bread, but we're going to make a different kind of Spanish bread, which is a breakfast and an afternoon tea delicacy. It's called pan de leche. Sounds so good, doesn't it? Translated, it is bread with milk. Pan de leche is a sweeter variety of bread which has sugar and eggs and milk. In fact, let's just see all the things it has right now. Let me go get them. So here we have with us about 140 grams of butter and about the same amount of sugar. Make sure that your butter is just the right amount of soft. So when it is creamed well, we break in 2 eggs. To this we add 16 grams of yeast and give it a light mix, not too much. And now we add 200 milliliters of milk. And now combine the whole thing together. To this, I'm going to add 400 grams of flour, and with my spatula, bring everything together until it forms a sticky dough ball. When your sticky dough ball is formed, we cover this with some cling film and leave it aside for 30 whole minutes. So the best place to store this is in a warm place which is not very drafty, because those are the best conditions for the yeast to rise. Another thing I really love, warm places. No, not so much. No. The next thing we're going to make is tomato compote. For this we have a nice fresh ripe tomato. So we make these cross incisions on here. From the back of the potato peeler, we take the stem out and you add the tomato to boiling water. Make sure that the tomato is submerged completely in the water and leave it there for 1 minute. So let's count to 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. $59, $60, and immerse it immediately into cold water. Whew. That was a good minute. Peel off the skin. And now we cut off all the seeds from the middle. So we're just going to keep all that juice and those seeds. Throw this away though. We take these and we chop them up. So I've already done that to about 10 tomatoes and reserved the juice, and I have slivered about 20 cloves of garlic on a high flame. We put generous amounts of Spanish olive oil, and in the heated olive oil, add your slivered garlic. When the garlic is nice and cooked, we add in all of the tomatoes. It's a lot of tomatoes. Tomato compote can be stored very easily. So what the Spanish generally do is rub a piece of garlic and then a piece of tomato on their tostada and not make any compote. But we're going the extra mile in making a good compote, which not only can be put on the tostada, but also store and have later with a lot of other things. So you let all the juices of the tomato evaporate and let it all coagulate and come together in the pan. And don't be afraid to add some more olive oil. When the tomatoes are considerably reduced in the pan, we add salt, a little black pepper, and some dried mixed herbs. You can also add fresh herbs if you want. So we cook it further just to dissolve all the salt and pepper. As it comes together, add about a teaspoon or two of malt vinegar. So you can also add some sugar to it if you want. Gives it a good sweetness. Now that this is reduced and cooked, take it off the flame, pour it into this little vessel. There it goes. Now that we're done with the tomato compote and our dough has risen, it's time to knead it a little bit before we shape it. It's still very sticky, so we carefully bring it on to a surface. So generally, whenever we've kneaded any dough on this surface, we've used a lot of flour, but this time we're going to use oil. Going to rub some oil on my hands and a little bit of oil on the surface and knead. And now, on an oven tray, take little portions of this dough, oil the surface, and make little buns as such. And now that these are done, we leave them to proof for about 15 minutes, if not less, and we wait some more. And now that the waiting period is done, and these seem to have risen quite well, if I might add, it's time to put these in the oven. So I have preheated an oven to about 200 degrees, and now these go in for 7 minutes. Then I take them out, brush them with oil, and put them in for 10 minutes more. Let's start making Magdalenas. So Magdalenas are nothing but lemon flavored cupcakes. So the first thing we do is we put some butter for melting in a double boiler, and we take juicy lemon and we grate it. We just need the zest. Now to these 4 eggs, I'm going to add about 135 grams of sugar. Let's beat it all together. So there you have it. Nice little ribbons to make my great aunt Agatha proud. We add about 115 grams of melted butter and mix some further. Now we add 2 teaspoons of vanilla, milk, 10 grams of grated lemon zest. To this we add about 115 grams of flour, a generous teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, and mix some further. So now that we're done, we're going to spoon it into this little cupcake mold. But before we do that, let's line these with these little cupcake papers. Oh, here we go. Then, with a good big spoon, spoon the mixture into these. So now, these go back into the oven, 180 degrees, 20 minutes. So browned beautifully. So what the Spaniards generally do is they just brush some icing sugar, caster sugar on top of these. But we're going to go an extra mile and just lightly dip these into some lemon juice so that they have a good acidity and moisture. Here we go. So now we make the famous Spanish churros, known all over the world for being soft and crunchy at the same time and delicious as you cannot imagine. So for making churros, we put 475 ml of water in a pan, add 6 grams of salt, 60 grams of sugar, and we add 225 grams of butter. We let all of this heat. So churros are made of a boiled dough, very similar to choux pastry that's used for making eclairs. So when the water is boiled, basically it's all just one big thing, we add the flour when it is still boiling. Bring the heat to a low and mix. When it all forms a ball and comes together and it's quite dry, bring the heat up and pour it into a ball. Once you have it out in the ball, spread it around the sides so you thin it out everywhere so that it cools faster, just like that. Now that this is cooled down, the muscle work shall begin. So I'm going to be using a big spatula. We have to mix the eggs in this dough with the spatula one by one until it's completely combined. Oh God, here we go. Egg 1. Egg 2. Egg 3. Egg 4. Egg 5. Egg 6. And we're done. Now we transfer this done dough into a piping bag with a star tip nozzle. Of course you can use any nozzle you want, but the star tip is what gives the churros that ridge. So let's put that in. Let's make sure the piping bag is not too full. Press it down. There we go. Twist the top. And now, as you see, we have heated up a lot of oil for deep frying. We're going to tie some kitchen string or twine on the edges over here. So not to waste oil, I'm reusing oil that I've already deep fried things in. Now we pipe in the churro and nicely cut it off over here. Easy, isn't it? All thanks to the string. We can use any length we want. When your ridges are nice and brown, but not too brown, take it off and put it on a piece of absorbent paper to get the excess oil off. Now that we're done with heaps of churros, it's time to finish them off by rolling them in some caster sugar. So you can also roll them in some cinnamon and caster sugar. After making churros, you need to have the chocolate dip. I love the chocolate dip, and this is a no measurement recipe, which makes me even happier. Here is a saucepan full of milk. In that, I'm going to add a good generous amount of sugar and whisk it in on a high flame so that it dissolves quickly. A chopped bar of chocolate. Whisk in the chocolate until it dissolves completely in the milk, and then leave it to reduce till it thickens a little bit. Now that it's reduced to a good thickness, and take it off the heat. And that's some really good chocolate dipping sauce. See, here you have it. Tostada con tomate, and on one of them we put some special Spanish sandwich ham. Then we've got our special Magdalena and churro con chocolate. So buen appetito, papi. You didn't get that? Well, I can't help you. Have a good meal, guys.